Perry Mason is an American period drama television series created by Rolin and Rolin Fitzgerald for HBO. It is based on the character of the same name by Erle Stanley Gardner. The series stars Matthew Rhys in the title role, and it premiered on June 21st, 2020. The series focuses on the origin story of the famed defense lawyer Perry Mason. In 1932, Los Angeles is prospering while the rest of the US is recovering from the grip of the Great Depression. Down-and-out private investigator Perry Mason is struggling with his trauma after the Great War, or World War I, and being divorced. He's hired for a sensational child kidnapping trial, and his investigation results in major consequences for Mason, those around him, and local leaders. The cast includes Matthew Rhys as Perry Mason, a low-rent private investigator who later becomes a lawyer. Juliet Rylance as Della Street, the lawyer and driven legal secretary of E.B. Jonathan. Chris Chalk as Paul Drake, a beat cop with a knack for detective work. Shia Wiggum as Pete Strickland, Mason's work partner. Tatiana Maslany as Sister Alice McKeegan, a preacher and leader of the Radiant Assembly of God. John Lithgow as Elias Burchett, E.B. Jonathan, a struggling attorney and regular employer of Perry Mason. Justin Kirk as Hamilton Berger, a cystic district attorney offering Mason legal advice. Deira Kilpatrick as Clara Drake, Paul's wife. Eric Lang as Gene Holcomb, an LAPD homicide detective. Ravonica Falcone as Lupe Gibbs, an accomplished pilot and owner of the Speakeasy who has a sexual relationship with Mason. Molly Ephraim as Hazel Prystock, a hand model who is Della's fellow boarding house tenant and a secret romantic partner. Gretchen Mole as Linda Mason, Perry's ex-wife. Gail Rankin as Emily Dodson, the mother of Charlie Dodson, a one-year-old child who is mysteriously kidnapped and murdered. Nate Cordery as Matthew Dodson, a grocery store owner who is the husband of Emily and the father of Charlie. Stephen Root as Maynard Barnes, the formidable district attorney of the Los Angeles County. Andrew Howard as Joe Ennis, an LAPD homicide detective. Robert Patrick as Herman Baggerly, Matthew's father, a powerful industrialist in Southern California who hires E.B. and Mason to investigate the kidnapping. And Matt Frewer as Judge Frederick Fred Wright, the judge in the Charlie Dodson murder case. On August 15, 2016, it was reported that HBO were developing a drama series based on the Perry Mason stories written by Erle Stanley Gardner. The production was expected to be written by Nick Pialazzo, who was also set executive producer alongside Robert Downey Jr. On August 25, 2017, it was announced that Pialazzo had dropped out of production in order to focus on the third season of True Detective, and that he was being replaced by the project's writers Rolin Jones and Ron Fitzgerald. The HBO revival and reboot adapted its setting to the Great Depression era of Los Angeles, some 20 years earlier than the CBS show, but in line with the earliest novels of Gardner. Alongside the initial development announcement, it was said that Robert Downey Jr. would star as the titular Perry Mason. On July 25, 2018, it was reported that Downey had dropped out of the role due to his feature film schedule, and the search for a replacement was ongoing. In January of 2019, it was announced that Matthew Rhys had been cast to replace Downey. Some trivia notes. The series is meant to be more like the earlier, darker novels of Erle Stanley Gardner written in the 1930s when the series takes place, where Perry Mason is more hands-on with his investigations. Ironically, Robert Downey Jr., who would play Dr. Dolittle in the 2020 movie of the same name, replaced Matthew Rhys in the role, and Matthew Rhys replaced Robert Downey Jr. as Perry Mason. In the show, Matthew Rhys does an American accent instead of his usual native Welsh accent. Ironically, Robert Downey Jr. uses a Welsh accent for his character of Dr. Dolittle. Sister Alice is based on the early 20th century Pentecostal evangelist Amy Semple McPherson, also known as Sister Amy, a controversial 1920s and 1930s celebrity. As demonstrated by the first scene of Sister Alice's sermonizing, McPherson pioneered the use of modern media and religious services, using radio to draw on growing appeal of popular entertainment and incorporating stage techniques into her weekly sermons at Angelus Temple, an early mega church. McPherson encountered controversy and downturn in her popularity with the press and public after a mysterious 1926 incident. She disappeared for 5 weeks, and when she reappeared in Mexico, she claimed to have been kidnapped, even though investigations had suggested she'd just gone on vacation. After a period of financial difficulty, she and the temple did regain some popularity. She later died in 1944. Some viewers and even professional TV critics were under the mistaken impression that the show's depiction of a jury that includes women was incorrect, as it was illegal for women to serve in California juries at the time. This, however, is not true. On May 29, 1917, California Governor William Stevens signed the Women's Jury Bill into law, making it legal for women to serve on juries. In this version, Mason is a private investigator, becoming a lawyer partway through the first season, claiming he had been an apprentice to lawyer E.B. Jonathan and then cramming in the bar exam without ever attending law school. Although this might seem implausible to modern audiences, it is not far removed from the way the Perry Mason author Erle Stanley Gardner himself became a lawyer. He did briefly attend Valparaiso University School of Law in Indiana, but he was expelled after only 1 month. After moving to California, he studied for the bar on his own and took the exam without further formal legal education. Now, I found Perry Mason Season 1 to be absolutely excellent. It's a compelling mystery that draws you into the era that it's put in. I love the film noir style, and just the setting and attention to detail of early 1930s Los Angeles just really pulled me in. The performances are absolutely top-notch here, with Matthew Rhys taking on the iconic role in a most notable way, and I think his performance is outstanding here. He's a man suffering from post-traumatic stress. His life is falling apart at the seams, but yet he rises above himself to do what he feels is right. The series also features a talented ensemble cast, including the likes of Tatiana Maslany, who plays Sister Alice McKeegan with a sense of poise and grandiosity, or the ever-reliable John Lithgow as E.B. Jonathan, a jaded and struggling attorney trying to now guide Perry Mason. I was also impressed here by Juliette Reliance as Della Street, not to mention Chris Chalk here as Paul Drake, and the ever-excellent Shia Wiggum as Pete Strickland. Gail Rankin also turns a haunting performance here as Emily Dodson, the mother of Charlie Dodson, the lady who is of course on trial. The production design is stunning, the costumes and cinematography are also brilliant, and just the attention to detail and capturing the gritty atmosphere from the time period is just on point. I loved the show's atmospheric setting, compelling storytelling and strong performances. The character development is excellent as well, as the show delves into the personal struggles and flaws of all of its main characters. The music here by Terence Blanchard is also on point, and it just adds to the whole setting of the show, as he uses particularly a lot of muted trumpet. It sort of gives a jazz setting to this 1930s show. From its excellent performances, fascinating story, and wonderful attention to detail in early 1930s Los Angeles, Perry Mason Season 1 gets a 9.5 out of 10.